This meeting is being recorded.
All right, I am going to call this meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Before I begin, I'd like to do a territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Sfss is located on the traditional unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, and Katzie nations. Unceded means that these territories have never been handed over, sold, or given up by these nations, and we are currently situated in occupied territories. And because this is a virtual meeting, we're all calling in from different lands, so I'd like everyone to acknowledge the unceded territories that they are calling in from. So to begin, we're going to do a roll call of attendance, starting with the governance committee composition, beginning with me. And we'll do names, pronouns, and access needs. So VP Internal and Organizational Development, the chair, that's me. My name is Chloe. My pronouns are she, her. For access needs, I already made this known, but a bit rusty on Robert's rules, so please correct me if I make any mistakes with that. So the next is ex officio corporate Gildersleeve, and they may be late / may not be coming. So the next is mathematics counselor.
Everyone, my name is Ben, pronouns he, him, his, and all my access needs are met.
All right, next, sustainability energy engineering counselor.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Al Shaboub, and my pronouns are he, him, his, and all my access needs are met. I just might not show my face, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you. The next is society staff. I see that we don't have our board organizer, but we have our policy, research, and community affairs coordinator.
Hi everyone, my name is Biri, pronoun she, hers. My access needs are met, but I'm in the sub, so my internet might be working. I'm also just taking my late lunch, so once I'm done, I'll turn on my camera. Thank you.
Thanks, Biri. And then we have the administrative assistant.
Hello everyone, I'm Simmer. My pronouns are he and him, and all my access needs are met.
Okay, and Judith, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name is Judith. I go by she, her pronouns, and my access needs are most likely met unless the sub Wi-Fi cuts out. I also haven't gone to a committee meeting before, so I'll most likely just watch and see how things go.
Thanks, Judith. So we have regrets from Ben, but Ben was able to make it. So I'm not sure if I have to motion to remove it, or if Simmer, if you could just note that Ben is here, so his regrets don't need to be on the agenda. So the next is the consent agenda. 4.1 consent agenda, be it resolved to adopt the consent agenda by unanimous consent. So that's 4.11 ratification of regrets submitted by Ben. And then 4.12 matters arising from the minutes, governance committee minutes from be it resolved to receive and file the following minutes from November 9th, 2021. So I will be moving to strike ratification of regrets from Ben, submitted by Ben. Can I get a seconder for that amendment? All right, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, that carries. So now looking at the new consent agenda, be it resolved to adopt the consent agenda by unanimous consent, and that is just the minutes from the previous governance committee meeting. Did I need to move to discuss this consent agenda? Oh, well, can I get a? Yes, I did. Okay. Sorry, a little bit out of order already, but can I get a? I'll move to, or can I get a mover for the new consent agenda? Oh, okay, perfect. Perfect. You think I'd know that from going to like 50 council meetings, but anyways, okay. So seeing no discussion, the consent agenda is carried as amended. All right, next we'll do the adoption of the agenda. So under the agenda, we don't have any motions today. We just have 2 discussion items: review of Sfss elections and referenda policies, and there's an attachment for that. The attachment is just the policies, and then I also have some documents to put into the chat. And then the next is the timeline for how we're going to finish everything that governance committee needs to do before the end of the semester. So can I get a mover for the adoption of the agenda? Can I get a seconder? Oh, sorry, Math moves. Can I get a seconder? Actually, if we don't even have quorum, can we move and second these? I'm not even sure if that's allowed. So sorry guys, little rough on that, but I'll second it. All right, so that's carried. Okay, so the first discussion item is review of Sfss election and referenda policies. So I'm going to put in the chat. Thanks, BD. I'm going to put in the chat the doc that BD is going to go over. Okay, this doc is just the elections and referenda policies, or the campaign period policies, because we're breaking it down. We're breaking down the policies to just look at the campaign period policies first. Then I can submit I'll post the policy review schedule when we move to that discussion item. Okay, so BD, are you ready to go over it now?
That mute button got me. I was looking for it. Anyway, do you mind first giving them an overview, like the plan with this before I dig in? In the meantime, I'll just also share the link of the tracker, since we're still gonna have to consult with them in terms of the timelines and all that. Just what we discussed the previous meeting before today's meeting.
Sure. Okay, so I guess we'll do the discussion items a little bit out of order. So BD and I have been meeting with Corbett to try to figure out how we're going to get everything that governance committee needs to get done before the end of the semester. So please also let me know if you don't have access to these docs. But so if you look at the link that BD sent, that should bring you to an Excel spreadsheet that has, if you look at the bottom, it has council policies, elections, operational, personnel, communications policies, etc. And basically within these policies, we have some of them highlighted as under review. So those are the policies that, all policies should need a review, but because we're getting so close to the end of the semester, we've decided to prioritize some that need to be done. Like, for example, elections, because it's so fresh in our mind, because Sfss elections just happened, we wanted to go over that first. And then also because the contract with the IEC ends next month, we wanted to make sure that that gets done. So if you look at the tracker, it'll say under review besides certain policies. So we've decided to look over elections policies first. And this week we're starting with the campaign policies. We also need to look over campaign period policies. We also need to look over election period policies. BD, do you remember what other ones we wanted to look over for elections?
Voting and it was campaign, voting. I think that was it. Campaign period and voting period. Yeah.
So that's on the tracker doc. And yeah, do you guys have any thoughts on like this plan to go over? I was planning on making like a more, like, because we only have like 6 weeks left in the semester, I think that's right. Like making a more concrete plan. We're gonna do this at this meeting. The notice of motion is gonna go out on this date, and then council's gonna vote on it at this date to make sure that they're all correct. But I just wanted to get an idea if you think that there's any, besides of the, if you look at the doc and see what ones we have under review, if there was any other urgent, any other policies you think that are urgent to go over, or if you had, if you had any comments on the ones that we have to go over, or any questions about why we need to go over the ones we're going over, yeah, feel free to ask. I can go, so stipends we need to go over because the stipends are being changed for the next counselors. In-camera sessions we need to go over. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. I forget, BD, do you remember why we need to go over minutes? The policy surrounding minutes?
After the elections, then we can start with the minutes. Oh, the in-camera one, then the minutes.
Okay. Do you remember why minutes? Oh, because are we going over the policy for doing minutes in camera?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was another policy we needed to look at. And then I think that was all we had for the stipends, in-camera sessions, minutes, and then elections. I believe that was everything. And then we need to do an overall, like, I know Ben already noticed that one of our policy documents have been was formatted incorrectly. So just like doing an overall bylaw and policy sweep, and that'll mainly be looking at just like errors, like spelling, that kind of thing, not so much as like changing policies. I just want to make sure that this is like something that's manageable for us to finish within the next couple weeks or few weeks, because I know that our hours get reduced to half hours in April. So I just wanted to make sure that this all gets done. Okay. So BD made this doc on the CP2 campaign period, or the campaign period policies. So basically just has all of the policies laid out, and it has suggestions for certain policies that need correcting or improvements. BD, do you want me to talk about what corrections you brought up before, or did you want to talk about it?
You can go for it, then I'll just a little bit.
Okay. So, does everyone have access to the doc? Just checking, like Judith or Mohammed, did you want to look at the doc for the campaign?
I don't have access to it. It says request access.
Okay, I'm just going to share it with you both specifically. Okay. And okay. Oh, Corbett just joined the doc too, I think. So, okay. So, yeah, let me know if you guys can access it now. All right, perfect. So yeah, this is looking at the policy surrounding the campaign period. So the first issue we had is it says the campaign period shall last at least 2 weeks. This is the issue with this is it's been challenged that, does this mean that campaign period lasts the at least 2 weeks, it's been challenged to if campaign period can last during voting period. So that's something that happened this year, is that campaigning was allowed during voting period, but minus post. It was kind of like it was a confusing message. We didn't know if we were allowed to campaign or not, and so that's something that needs to be better stated in the bylaw and the policies. The next one is I'm just going to do a quick overview. Is campaign materials, the definition surrounding campaign materials. So we wanted to add, because right now it says, and I'm under CP3 right now, it says for under definitions, number 3, it says campaign materials means anything encouraging the elections of a candidate or a group of candidates. Campaign materials include campaign literature and online, etc. So I think we wanted to change it so that campaign literature includes social media, or where we've been discussing if we should include social media to be included under campaign literature or under campaign materials. And the issue around this is that there's a policy in place stating that all posters need to be taken down midnight before the voting period, midnight of the voting period. However, that was talking about posters, but then we don't know, like, do we have to delete our social media as well? Like, that was super confusing. I'm sure Judith can comment on that as well. But yeah, there was a huge, there was like a bit of lack of understanding if it was just posters needed to be taken down, if social media also needed to be taken down. So that's something that needs to be redefined and made clearer. The next is, so if you go to under regulations under CP3, number 8 is campaign literature must not be posted in society offices. So now that we're in the sub, society offices are a bit like when you walk in, that's a society office. So it's like that's a new gray area of like where can people poster now, because I'm sure candidates in the future will want to. The sub was closed during elections this year, but I'm sure candidates will want to poster in the sub. So it's just like making sure that there's like what offices is clearly defined, because the reason for that is we don't want it to look like staff are endorsing a certain candidate or certain, like a slate or something. So we want to make sure that it's clearly not put near offices. So I know Shelley suggested that, and BD also suggested that maybe we do it by floors, like campaigning like can't be done on level 3000 where the office is, or something like that, just to make it clear that's something that we can also talk about and redefine. Now, the next one is number 14. It says any member of the society may issue an endorsement for a candidate or a group of candidates. So the issue with this is that execs, like current execs, are also members of the society, and because council and the executive committee can't endorse, like as a council cannot endorse certain like they can't endorse candidates. Like we need to kind of clear that up, as if can an exec endorse a slate or a candidate, or well, they can't endorse this. You know, like where is that line going to be drawn as well? The next was, yeah, I think the next all mainly related to once again campaign materials, like approval of social media posts and whatnot. The last one I believe is, or not, under CP4. CP4 number 14 under process. Candidates must communicate the time and place of all in-person campaigning activities other than the society debates provided in these policies to the Chief Commissioner. So yeah, this is just, yeah, I think that's clear enough. I just don't think that was communicated to candidates this this election, so that's just something to do for next time. The next is CP. I think that was all. And then the rest was just recommendations to IEC. I think that's everything. BD, did I miss anything?
Yeah. Okay, I'll just add a little bit. So in the document, I've given like the main point of contention with this policy. I don't have my report ready because I have to wait for the IEC report. When it's ready, then I'll compile everything and share with you. But in the meantime, because of time, we can just start brainstorming on this recommendation that I've given there. Then we will draft them with the right language that we want to use, and then we will come back in this committee and approve it so that you can send a motion to council to approve that policy recommendation, and then I'll update the policy and it will be on the website, the long procedure. But anyways, as stated in that Google document, is that one question that we want to ask ourselves: should we allow campaigns during voting period? Yes or no? If yes, what are some of the considerations that you have to put in mind? Given that in-person elections was just a one-day thing, but because it's been online, we have the three days. But if we go back to in-person, we'll just have 1 day for voting period rather than the 3 days that you normally have. So put that in mind. Second, if no, we continue the same practice, no campaigning during voting period. Where do we put social media materials? Where do we put web-based blogs, website, and all that? So if you read that, some of my recommendation is that, so some of the execs, also candidates, argued that because our bylaw 17, if you can just go to the website and check bylaw 17, or I can just also paste it in the chat. So this was the argument used for not removing social media campaigns in our website, because the bylaw only states only printed material should be removed. But if you go to our policy, let me see, which part of the policy? So if you go to our policy page 52, I can just copy paste this part here. Copy. Okay, it looks weird, but anyway, if you go to our policy, it says links and description of all web-based campaign tools such as websites, social media must be provided. So we are already incorporating social media as a campaign material, but in our bylaws, it's not clear. So one thing that the governance committee can do is propose a bylaw change with a clear language. Number 13, also say campaign material online or otherwise for candidates must submit. So it means that our campaign policy recognizes that we have online campaigns. The only question is, should we also remove online content during voting period? I checked past practices. If you can see the document, I checked past practices and it required, so from 2014, SFS's election handbook from 2013, 2014, if you go all the way to 2019, so I think just before COVID, 2019, they had a section titled electronic campaign. So in the electronic campaign, Facebook groups were not allowed. If you are most of you are candidates, you know how that also caused friction. The reason why Facebook groups were not allowed is because you cannot delete or disband a Facebook group once it's hard to do that when it's time for campaigning period, but they encourage pages and what's the other thing you can use in Facebook? Okay, Facebook page. Some, as we discussed this employees, someone can argue that it's hard to like go and delete past posts. So for example, Twitter, because it refreshed, so that can be exempted. That's a policy that UBC Student Union is also following. So they exempt Twitter. And also in our own policy, the 2014 policy, it says that posts that are on your personal page can stay during the voting period. But posts such as a website, the Slate websites, and other pages must be deleted, but your personal post can stay during the voting period. So those are just some of the arguments for and against whether we should allow voting campaign during the voting period. And if we do allow campaign during the voting period, we should redefine what SFSS considers campaign materials by explicitly including online content. After that, we'll then decide whether when you're removing your print materials, should you also delete your website? Should you also delete your blogs? All that. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So just go through the documents. Between now and Thursday, you can add comments, add suggestion. Then on Thursday, we can discuss further, but I gave everything in my recommendation on that document, and I also shared some resources in an email. I don't think did Judith receive that email? Not sure. I think I sent an email with the resources and the handbook itself, so you can also go through it, and then in our next meeting we can make a decision on whether we are recommending voting period campaigns in the voting period. I think someone has listed. I can continue after Mohammed.
Yeah, Mohammed, do you want to go?
Yes, please. I wanted to ask originally, here's why I'm like, I understand the information and the decisions we have to make. What I don't understand is the reasoning behind the decisions, how do I put this? I don't understand why campaign material needs to be removed in the first place. What was the reasoning behind, in the beginning, why this was a policy to begin with? Why do we have to remove campaign materials from the start, even when it was in person? The only feasible reason I can see is due to sustainability concerns, is the reason that I can see. But I'm really confused about what the point of removing the material is. I don't see a need for it. It seems outdated, like extremely, like 30 years outdated kind of thing. So I'm trying to understand the reasoning of why that's the case.
Judith can go next, then I'll.
To answer your question, I can't speak with full confidence, but in terms of campaign literature, like posters, I think the idea behind it was that you don't want to influence voting and voting period. And it's also very distracting for students to have it around, especially during voting period. Campaign material, I think that's an interesting situation because if you look at the definition of campaigning, it talks about active efforts to convince the membership to vote, right? So it depends on, like, do we consider leaving off social media posts as an active effort to convince people if you're not like resharing it or you're not pushing people to like look at it? I think, because I know we were tracking links, so like our social media platform links, and we're tracking like the website links to see how much engagement was getting, because we were under the impression that like digital stuff can stay up while posters to come down. So we know that there were clicks during voting period, people like referencing to platforms, looking at like social media posts. So there is a potential concern that if you have more resources, because if you're running at a slate, but we have like a team you can rely on to at least help you prepare stuff, it is a power imbalance situation. And there's a much higher chance of somebody seeing your stuff if you're with multiple people, if you have more resources available than if you would have if you're like an independent. And I think the idea is to make this as fair as humanly possible. So it's almost like a fair solution to remove at least posters on campus before voting starts. And I would not be against removing digital files either. I think that probably might save a lot of unsolicited drama. But I'm gonna pass it to Beatty. I'm sure she's a great answer too.
Okay, yeah, you framed it really well. It's just about power and giving opportunity to all candidates. So my experience as a political scientist and someone who supervised elections in other countries, I've never seen campaigns during voting period. Reason being is that there's tendency of coercion from the candidates to convince voters the last minute. It might look outdated, but those candidates that don't have enough power to do that might feel disadvantaged, but it's up for the debate. So what I know is just to have a concrete timeline that the campaign period has ended. So it means once we've started voting, you're not expected to campaign in any way. And because we don't have rallies and because we don't have press conferences, because we don't have like those ideal campaign strategies in a political party or in a country, SFSS campaign strategies is posters, it's social media, what is relatable to their voter, the pool of voters that they're trying to communicate to. So that's why that policy has been borrowed from other political practices in a larger context, and has been borrowed by SFSS, because our campaign strategy is those print media. Our campaign strategy is look at it this way: if we were doing rallies at AQ and people are about to go and vote, so those rallies, the equivalent of rallies in normal political culture, is SFSS print materials and the social media. So that's why it's kind of regulated, just like any political situation that voters are exposed to. I hope that kind of answered the reason behind limited campaign period in any political process.
Mohammed, do you still agree that campaigning should be allowed during voting period, or do you see that, or do you think?
Well,
Sorry,
I have
go
one
ahead.
question. I don't have a side to take, honestly. I'm just trying to understand so I can go on one side or the other. That's the point of me asking these questions. And with that being said, in that case, I have a further question to the ones I had previously, which is, okay, so campaigning isn't allowed so that it's more regulated, and that the people without the resources to do some last minute campaigning aren't being don't have like the people that don't have the power to do that aren't being sort of, I don't know what the word for this is, but they're not being wronged for it is the idea behind that. So my follow-up question in that case is, what if that campaign period, that campaign material is just there? Does that still count as campaigning? Because if I saw a poster on the wall, whatever that poster is, whether it's for the elections, whether it's for petting cats at 11 a.m., whatever it is, if I see that poster once, I don't care if I see it again. I'm not gonna look at it twice and be like, oh, well, now my mind has changed, in my opinion. And so what if that material is just left there? Does that count as campaigning or not? Because if it does count, then yes, in that case, that is an argument against keeping social media, like social media platforms, because you can keep scrolling through Instagram and find the feed of, oh, this person's campaign poster. Now I found it again. But if it doesn't count as campaigning, the act of campaigning and not just campaign material, if it doesn't count as campaigning, then at that point, the other argument would be, why not just keep the posters up then? Because it is the exact same thing as a social media post. You go walk by the sub and you see a poster. So my question is, if you've already campaigned and if you've already created the material for that campaign, if you've already put it wherever, does the act of keeping their act as campaigning, because if it does, then that's pro removing social media sites. If it's against, then it's pro keeping everything on.
Yeah, it does count as campaigning. So if you go to our definition of what's campaign material, it means anything encouraging the election of a candidate or a group of candidates. So if that campaign is just if your poster is just a voting link and voting dates, really that's general, so that's not a campaign material. But if it's your picture, your portfolio, and your slogan, definitely you're trying to convince whoever is staring at that poster that vote for me. It's up to them to make the decision or not. So if we go back to social media, so that's why if we decide to say no to campaigning period during the voting period, then that's why I recommended that we need to redefine our campaign materials to include social media. So if we're gonna remove the printed posters that are trying to convince someone to vote for you, the same thing is going to happen to social media. But we have consideration that some social media, the way they've been designed, it's gonna be difficult for candidates to trace back their past posts. So we'll need to identify which social media will need to be exempted from this policy and which social media do we have to delete. So if your social media post is trying to convince people to vote, then, to vote for you, then it's still a campaign. There's also an argument that some candidates might say that, well, I was just urging people to vote. That's why my campaign has a link to the vote, has a voting link and also has a election dates. To avoid this, the past practices has been that even your social media post should be approved by the IEC, even though you should send a screenshot of what you're planning to be posting, the campaign materials you're planning to be posting on social media. So in this way, if we see something new, especially during the voting period, then the IEC might have a case and say, well, we didn't approve this campaigning material that you're using on your social media, so it's clearly a violation. Same thing is being practiced by UBC, same thing is being practiced by GSSS. Also, we practiced that in 2014 until 2017. That's also something we can put on the table to help people make the decision on that. I wanted to add something, but I've forgotten. Anyway, yeah, I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, that answers me perfectly.
Okay, so just being cognizant of time, we have about 20 minutes left in this meeting, and I will have to put a hard stop at 6:30 because I have a meeting after this. Sorry. So basically what BD and I were thinking is that obviously we can't motion. One thing I forgot to double check before this meeting was if quorum is only counted for seats that are filled or if we count vacancies as a part of quorum. So I don't know if anyone knows the answer to that, but I was just curious if we could pass motions or not, because I think we have quorum based on what seats are filled, but if we look at vacancies, we don't have quorum. Not that I have any motions to pass anyways, but so basically, I think can everyone just give a thumbs up if they understand what we're trying to fix with these policies, or if they have any more questions around what we're doing? Okay, Ben's good. Okay, perfect. So basically what we do then is we draft up new policies and then we present that as a notice of motion, and then governance committee motions to make this recommendation to council, and then we pass the policy changes at council, because governance committee, we don't have enough power as a committee to make policy changes. So my thinking is if everyone understands what we've talked about, BD also has, there was a survey that went out to candidates to give their feedback on what they what they thought went well during elections, what they thought could have been improved on. So with that information, with the report from the IEC, and then with our recommendations, hopefully we'll have a new set of campaign period policies that are a lot clearer and make campaigning run a lot smoother. Also, Judah, I know you're not on the committee, but as a candidate, I think you're more than qualified to, or as someone who is a candidate, you're more than qualified to give your opinion as well on what needs to be changed. So I think if everyone can just provide their feedback. I haven't scheduled a meeting for Thursday, but Beatty and I will meet on Thursday, and I don't know if you guys want to send your feedback as an email or something like that, or if you can make a meeting time on Thursday. I think it's a bit too short notice to call like an official meeting, but I think we can start drafting a report, and then hopefully we'll have a report done for the next, or policy changes done for the next governance committee meeting, so we can just approve those changes, pass the notice of motion to council, and then, or put the notice of motion up and then have that pass at the next council meeting. I think that is a good plan. I don't know what you guys, let me know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think that's a good plan. So just urge members to, did you make them editors in the document, or they're just viewers?
Ben, Judith.
Are you able to edit?
Okay.
Okay, so if you are not able to also attend the Thursday meeting, since it's short notice, just feel free to ask questions. For example, what Mohammed is asking, and then I'll just reply. And then I'm hoping by Thursday we'll be on the, we don't have to agree for sure. We just have to have something concrete to present to council, and then they'll decide. But the main thing, we need to have a language. So if we don't agree, for example, on what, just an example, if we don't agree on whether to support,
like extend campaign during voting period, for example.
Yeah, we could provide consideration and alternatives in terms of this policy is for allowing campaign during voting period. Then the next language, so we'll have like 2 languages to present them so that we move forward before the IEC leave. So just feel free to edit. You can tag me or anyone, and let's just communicate because of time through that document, and then it will help us like move forward really quickly.
Judith, you have a list?
Yeah, I was just wondering if it'd be possible to add in a definition about like what it means to remove online digital campaign material, because I think, for example, the big difference between archiving a page on a website versus deactivating the website for some amount of time. I think there's a leeway that should be clarified, especially because a lot of websites, especially now, you have to pay for domain name and like a plan. And we can't really expect candidates to delete that kind of investment, but we could ask them to like deactivate a certain sub page, or like deactivate their page temporarily for the voting period. Same with social media. Some people campaign from their personal social media versus like creating a separate account for campaigning. So just because you would reach more people from a regular account. So maybe adding a definition or clarifying what it means to like deactivate or delete digital campaign material would be useful going down the line. So people are not losing out on like hundreds of dollars of website subscriptions.
Yeah, that's a good point. So for the, I think there's one recommendation in it's in the notes that says that on personal social media, you don't have to delete anything on your personal social media. You can just add notes on that if you find it, and then we can add redefining the web. So there's a point I had on web, removing web, so you can say maybe deactivating temporarily until the result.
So can I also just see a thumbs up if people feel like they have the capacity to provide their feedback on these policies by like midday Thursday? Thumbs up, Judith, you can. Ben's good too. Oh, okay. No worries, Mohammed. Is there anything you, okay, so. Okay. Then, okay, so I guess I think that's enough labor to make some changes, necessary changes for this, and then hopefully you agree with what changes we recommend, Mohammed. If not, you feel free to speak against that at the next governance and council meeting. But I think it's more just about clarity than really changing things, like just redefining. And this is me fulfilling Corbett's platform promise to modernize the SFSS and having like more social media defined in our better definitions, modern definitions in our campaign policies. So anyways, I think as everyone's clear on what the plan is going forward for these policies specifically. Okay, so then BD and I will definitely meet on Thursday. Anyone who can come, please come. If not, like your recommendations will be seen through the doc. So it's not critical for you to be there. I'm going to do my best to try to call a governance committee meeting for sometime next week because I really want to get the notice of motion done and have them recommended. I just want to make sure it aligns well with the like submitting agenda items. I am on a leave of absence next week, but I'll keep it. I'll only work on governance committee stuff. That'll be my one exception. Okay, so I think we're good on campaign policies. I'm just gonna move to the. I have to do some work, Judith. So does anyone have anything else they'd like to add to this discussion item? Okay. Seeing no one, no more discussion on this. I'm gonna move more to the timeline. So I don't know if any of you saw my email yet, but I'm going to be trying to fill our last 2 seats at our next council meeting. And so if you guys don't mind like reaching out, so far I haven't got any responses, but the email was just sent out like an hour ago, so not really expecting any. But if you guys know anyone who'd be interested in joining governance, please encourage them to nominate themselves tomorrow. And so yeah, because we do have like just the more feedback, the easier it is for us to fix policies, and we'll catch more things that way. So for the timeline, I'm thinking I should just create a doc that has like whatever week and what we're doing that week, just so that we all are on the same page. So maybe I can just make that right now. Do you think just making like a Google Doc with a chart on it, like a table, is enough, and then we can just have the week and then what we're doing?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, and then from that I'll make I'll just make one right now, and then from that I'll make Google Calendar invites to committee meetings. Oh, that's another thing. I guess we should wait until we get our next 2 members to make an official committee meeting time. But I know, Ben, this time doesn't normally work for you, and BD, you would prefer if this time was before 4:30. Is that correct?
Yeah, even 4:30 to 5:30 is okay. I'm the only one in the sub.
Okay. So I will put a when to meet in the chat. Sorry, let me just create that. I think I've made like 5 governance committee meeting when to meet. But I guess I'll just put one more. No later than 5:30. I'll just do 6, or we'll just do 5.
Also, one way to get members, you can just, because the election is so fresh, you can just tell them that you are currently debating whether to allow voting or not. You can. I think that will maybe entice someone to come. to join the committee.
Yeah, we can just make up a controversial, we can make it sound more controversial than it is to advertise the committee.
Yeah.
Okay, I put in the when to meet in the chat. I'm sorry, guys. I promise this is the last. I'll keep this when to meet for the next, like as soon as we get 2 members tomorrow, fingers crossed we get 2 members tomorrow, I will send this out and then we'll just make our set meeting time and it'll be way less confusing. Also, I know like I feel bad because I know we're getting into like the April's going to be the busy month and we also only have half hours. So yeah, so I'm sorry for like putting on more work for that last little while. It just kind of took me a while to get the committee going, like after taking over Corbett's position. So, and then campaigning and everything, but we're here now. So, okay, so I'm going to make a Google Doc and share it with everyone about just like art for timeline. Okay, let me just get on that right now. Because that won't really have much discussion, I think I can just motion to end the meeting now because I don't think that there's much discussion around that. So moving on to adjournment, be it resolved to adjourn the meeting at 6:21 p.m. Can I get a mover? Math moves. Can I get a seconder?
CSS seconds.
S-E-E. Wait.
SS. There's a lot of letters.
Simmer, did you get that? Okay. Okay.
This is why I never move a second. There's a reason for it.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? All right. Seeing no discussion, this meeting is now adjourned. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna stop the recording now.